For you to say something about Heathrow, ourselves, the past, the future, or ask questions, whatever. Over to you. I think we don't have a microphone, so I will try and repeat the question so that everyone can hear. Diane?
Hi, John. Diane Brewster, one of John's year in '74 in Heathrow, Bob and Marion here, who are our generation as well. We've just been talking about the ripple effect and how the tentacles of Heathrow have spread and will continue to spread. I told a story of when I was in labour with my second child, the midwife saying to me, "I think I know you." She was pastoral year.
Really?
I didn't recognise her at the time, I have to say. But then getting an email 2 or 3 years ago from someone saying, "Are you the same Diane Brewster who taught at Birkbeck?" Which I did post Heathrow. And she was Charlotte Methuen, you know Charlotte, who had come to an evening class taught by me as an ex-Heathrow student, and she then fell in love with theology, went on, and now is a leading church historian. And so that kind of ripple effect of, you know, it's not just us, it's our children, it's the connections that we made, and, you know, Heathrow will continue to ripple.
Yes, yes, yes. Because one of the great teachers who we lost 2 weeks ago was Robert Murray, who died aged 93. A great scholar, Syriac Christianity and so on. And the number of people who, I think James Crouch used the image of, Robert was one of those people who whenever you asked him anything, he had thought about whatever it was beforehand. And he left a trace of his knowledge and his wisdom on every person. And I think that's part. He would talk to himself as being a tradent, somebody who hands on things. And I think that's part of the enrichment that happens with this. He said to me once, you know, there's a German theologian, a romantic theologian in the 19th century called Möller, who wrote a book called Symbolic, which is about the creeds. And Robert said to me once, "You know, I'm ashamed to say I've never read the whole of Möller's Symbolic." And I remember thinking, don't worry about it, Robert. I haven't read it either, but I'm not anxious about that. That's why he was a great scholar and I wasn't. But that effect still continues, doesn't it? Yeah.
The thought I was having is talking about the sort of end of Heathrow as a physical entity, physical university. Is there a scope for thinking of an e-Heathrow? In other words, going more into the future where things are going. The e-side of the universities have done bits of that.
Yes.
Where more people are increasingly engaged, particularly the young people.
Of course.
We're going into the artificial intelligence age, which is going to transform society totally.
Yes.
Would not even be a more appropriate place for Heathrow to be reaching out from?
I think that's a very interesting proposal. Increasingly, I think the use of digital technology.
Can you repeat it back?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it was whether something like an e-version of Heathrow might actually be an appropriate way of continuing the work. But clearly, this is going to be so important in the future because we're going to be relying upon scholarship mediated electronically and digitally to us. And if something like that could be done, I think it could well be. Yeah. I wonder whether the Jesuit province might have an eye on trying to foster something in those lines.
If it's any help to you, I know, because I've been giving a few talks in Europe to universities about artificial intelligence and visualization and changes that are coming. A lot of universities don't fully realise it yet, but there's a massive train coming straight at them that's going to transform them, whether they like it or not, for various reasons. And it could be that Heathrow is just unfortunately one of the early ones to go against the wall. Slightly different reasons, but
yes, this sense that there's major changes coming that will affect the way universities conduct their life. Yeah. Thank you. That's a tricky question. Where is the library going? I don't know the answer to that. Brendan, do you want to say something about that?
I asked that question this morning because I knew I was going to be here, and I was talking with someone who could give an answer to it. And the answer that I may give at this moment is that it's not going out of London, and it will remain accessible, and it will remain the collection.
I think that means it will be stored on various trains in the Circle Line, which will keep going round. Sorry, sorry, please.
I speak as an Anglican. I was talking to the rector of our parish a few weeks ago and deploring the fact that when I was young, Christianity was a central part of the dialogue in this country with people like Eliot and Green and such like, and we seem to have lost that. It wasn't there anymore, out of the public sphere in that sense. And he said a religion that begins with someone dying on the cross should perhaps not be too worried about things coming to an end.
That's good advice, isn't it? It's very good advice. A religion that begins with someone dying on a cross shouldn't be too anxious about things coming to an end. There's ways in which life can be produced out of the darkness of demise and death. Yes, very much. Thank you.
The cross is not the end. The cross is not the end, it's the resurrection. So you can't leave the Christian cross without the resurrection. So there must be a resurrection.
Now there's a great theologian speaking there. Thank you for that. It's nice to see you today. Yeah. That was Ursula King, by the way, because you probably read her many times in her writings on spirituality and Teilhard de Chardin and so on. Yeah.
John, it strikes me that Pope Francis is trying to go in your direction, trying to open up that sort of vision. He's meeting a lot of resistance. Do you think that's what he got met? Also, that sort of resistance?
Yes, I don't know about Pope Francis trying to do something along the lines that I've been suggesting. By the way, I don't like to blow my own trumpet. But I have to tell you this. When I gave my final lecture at Heathrop, what I've learned as a theologian, one of the things I said was, I don't believe in hell. Because what happens is that when some people die, they just stop. Because the only way to go into death is to be in touch with love and goodness and truth. And if you have turned yourself completely against that, you just stop. So there's no hell. Now, I was gratified a few weeks ago to find that the Pope had clearly read my lecture on this and decided that this should be taught. I don't know. I think what he's doing is quite remarkable. You'll have heard the story. His nephew, I think, studying in Rome, came to one of the Jesuit communities there and told the story of Francis was in the square, the piazza, and he met some Argentinian pilgrims, and they gave him something to drink, some Argentinian liqueur, and he drank this quite happily. And the security people came up and said, Holy Father, please, never drink anything that people give you. It could be poisoned. And he said, you don't have to worry. These are Argentinians. You should be more concerned with the drinks that the cardinals might give you. I think he's introducing remarkably profound evangelical virtues and values into the very heart of the Petrine ministry. And he's not a cultural warrior in the ways in which the previous two popes were engaged in a quite conscious engagement of contestation against modernity. I think he comes from somewhere outside that, and consequently I think his insights are not tinged in the same way as some of the teachings of his predecessors were. And I think it's quite remarkable. It's very interesting that people outside the church have a great liking for him. And often people inside the church don't. And that's usually a sign that truth is happening. Gemma.
John, just picking up the theme of the Pope. On Good Friday at 11:15, the BBC rang and said, could you come and appear on the World News because Pope Francis has said he doesn't believe in hell. So, with one ear on the telephone and the hand quickly going on the computer to see what the Pope had actually said, I said, yeah, okay, I'll come on the World News. Okay, they said, could you come at 3 o'clock? So I said, no. Oh, why not? Because I said, because it's Good Friday. And it's 3 o'clock. They said, yeah. Is that significant? So I said, well, to me and about 1.2 billion Catholics, yes it is, actually. Really? Why? So I said, well, it's the time that Jesus died, so we're going to be in church. Long pause. Oh, okay then. Can you do 2:15? I think that says it all for the disconnection with religion in this
Yes. Like the story of the person who goes along to a jeweller's to buy a cross, and the salesperson says to them, do you want a plain cross or one with a little man on it? Really things of... I mean, you've heard me before many times on this. The collapse of traditional Catholic culture in one generation is part of our reality. Whether it's French Canada, Belgium, Holland, Ireland, within one generation, a traditional culture that is infused with the values of Catholicism, Christianity generally, of course, just goes like that. It might be wide, but it's often an inch deep. And I think we're in a situation now where the rapidity of that change, those cultural changes, are destabilizing. But this is why I think something like Ranerd is so important in enabling us to try and develop theological approaches that are genuinely pastoral in relationship to the world that's developing.
And my own research institute is doing theological dialogue in Africa via WhatsApp. So you know what, there is a future.
Excellent. Tell us what that research institute is, Gemma, because many people don't know.
It's called the Religious Life Institute. It's looking at the future of religious life, as in vowed religious life. And we're doing research into the sustainability of religious life for women in Africa. We cannot rely on the internet. We cannot rely on the availability of electricity. And so we're doing this all through WhatsApp, because however remote a part of Africa, people have got mobile phones. So actually, theological research and dialogue is going on via WhatsApp, and it's the future.
Wonderful.
So this is the way we're finding to communicate ideas to each other and actually have a conversation that is then going to be transmitted to the rest of the world. So
isn't that great?
The question, is there a future for Heathrow? You bet there is.
It's on WhatsApp.
It's on WhatsApp.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
What do you think of the Benedict option?
The Benedict option. Ah, you lost me there. Tell me about the Benedict option.
I'll leave it to others.
I'm just not familiar with that, I'm afraid.
Retreating into Oxford.
Ah, okay, yes.
In the secular world.
Yes. Very impressive what's happening. A number of the communities in Paris, for example, some of those churches have been revivified by the presence of monastic communities in these worlds. I'm very, very impressed by that, yes. I mean, I think our issue is how to preserve and foster Catholic difference without it being sectarian. Jonathan Sacks some years ago said that what happens in our society is that every religious tradition becomes weakened in its core identity. There's an equalizing. We're all doing the same thing. And so when society looks to the traditions, religious traditions, to give something distinctive, those traditions are so weakened and attenuated by the impact of secular modernity that they've got nothing to say. And so for him, what he wants are communities that are internally strong in their core identity, in terms of their spirituality, their voice, their intellectual traditions, and their witness to be able to do something different. And he would want a community of communities as a way of serving modernity. And I think that's a very interesting strategy that I think I would be very sympathetic towards maintaining a core identity that enables us to witness. Okay, I think we may be done enough. I mean, sorry, was there somebody? Sorry, please.
There's an organisation in Israel, the Israeli Study Centre, who are offering courses online for Old and New Testament from a Hebrew perspective.
Yes.
Aimed entirely at Christians.
Yes.
So, e-Hithrop is definitely a possibility. Should that be able to happen?
Yes. Yes.
Offering online or whatever.
Yes.
Courses of that kind.
Absolutely.
It would be amazing.
Because there's a wonderful book came out a few years ago called The Jewish New Testament,
Yes.
which was edited and with annotations by Jewish scholars, enabling Christians to be enriched by Jewish perspectives on what, after all, is a Jewish work. But as the psychiatrist said in Fawlty Towers when he looked at Basil Fawlty, there's enough material here for a whole conference. We better not try to develop that here. Okay, good. I think we better stop now. Is that right? Lovely. Thank you very much indeed for that.